Hikaru is just an ordinary student until one day he comes across something far from normal, a talking mechanical arm named Alma. From that moment on, his life is turned completely upside down. This isn't just any arm, it's part of the mysterious Mecha-Ude, devices that connect to people and grant them incredible abilities, but no one really knows where they came from or what they truly are. Hikaru is just a regular high school student, burdened by crippling social anxiety and no clue about what to do with his life. One morning, he wakes up early, drags himself out of bed, and heads to the train station, catching the first train to school. But something has been bothering him for a while. The night before, while cycling, he spotted a strange orange light in the sky and heard a voice calling out to him. Since then, he's been trying to figure out what happened, but hasn't found any clues. As he fiddles with his phone, he notices a pregnant woman standing in front of him, along with two elderly ladies giving him judgmental looks, clearly expecting him to give up his seat. Feeling the pressure to do the right thing, Hikaru stands up, ready to offer the seat to the woman. However, he hears a group of guys laughing at the back end, paranoid, thinks they're mocking him for being a goody two-shoes. Soon after, he realizes the laughter wasn't directed at him at all. Relieved that he wasn't the target, Hikaru relaxes a little. But while he was hesitating, the man next to him had already stood up and offered his seat to the woman. Now, Hikaru is left standing alone, embarrassed, and seriously considering getting off at the next stop. Suddenly, a few classmates board the train and spot him. With little choice, he joins them. As his friends start talking about their futures, Hikaru barely pays attention. His mind is still stuck on what happened the previous night. Curious, his friends ask what's on his mind, and Hikaru decides to tell them. He recalls hearing a voice late at night. When he opened the window to see where it was coming from, he noticed the area around the Kami building was strangely illuminated. Intrigued, he grabbed his bike and rode up a hill for a closer look. What he didn't know at the time was that a major battle was taking place at the Kagami building, where a girl with robotic arms was trying to steal an orange cube. She tried to escape via the rooftop, but was surrounded by a private police force that recognized her as a Mecha-Ude user. They tried to subdue her, but her mechanical arms made her hard to catch. When the police failed, they used specialized weapons to freeze her in place. Then, the head of the operation appeared and released a highly modified mechanical creature. The girl's arms reacted with fury to what the man had done. Without mercy, he grabbed the cube, intending to use it in future experiments. Determined to stop him, the girl managed to break free of the trap with the help of her arms, sinus and dex, and attacked the man. During the fight, the containment tube was damaged, and the cube was launched into the air. It was at that exact moment that Hikaru saw the explosion at the building and recorded everything. However, for some reason, the video didn't capture anything unusual. He also saw the cube falling near the building, but, once again, this didn't appear on the recording. His friends laughed, teasing him that it must have been a crazy dream. But, curious, one of them asks what the voice he heard sounded like. Hikaru, a bit embarrassed, admits that the voice was calling for help. His friends laugh again, suggesting it could have been a ghost, but Hikaru is certain of what he heard. Coincidentally, he hears the same voice again. Despite class starting soon, he runs off to try and follow the sound. Without knowing what he's looking for, he gets closer to the Kagami building but is stopped by a police officer. The officer explains that the company generously donated to the station in exchange for a favor, so no one is allowed to enter. Suddenly, the officer's radio goes off, saying that Mr. Kagami needs all officers in the back area. The officer leaves, momentarily forgetting Hikaru. For a moment, Hikaru considers leaving, as he's always been a law-abiding citizen. But then, the voice echoes again. Ignoring the no trespassing signs, he sneaks into the restricted area. After walking for a while, he spots a glowing cube on the ground and wonders if that's what was calling him. As he approaches, the cube starts speaking, startling him. Still, he reaches out to touch it, and a massive flash of light surrounds him. The cube shoots into the sky and lands on Hikaru's back, causing another flash, drawing even more attention. When he opens his eyes, he discovers a massive metallic arm growing out of his back. Panicked, Hikaru hears someone's voice, but sees no one, which only makes him more frantic. The arm then calls for his attention, trying to calm him down. Seeing a metal arm growing out of his back isn't exactly comforting, but the arm, visibly grateful, starts thanking him for freeing it. It tries to tell him its name but realizes it can't remember. Hikaru is still trying to process the fact that there's an arm coming out of his back, but he soon realizes that it's not actually attached to his body, just to his jacket. Before he can figure out what to do next, a drone appears to survey the area, making Hikaru suspect that the mechanical arm belongs to the Kagami group. Not wanting any trouble, Hikaru begins to remove the jacket to return it, but the drone doesn't hesitate. It activates its circular saws and attacks him. Desperate, Hikaru runs for his life, believing the drone is after him because of the arm. As he stumbles and tries to rid himself of the metallic appendage, he discovers that the drone is, in fact, trying to kill him. The arm then intervenes to protect him. Terrified by the near-death experience, Hikaru doesn't understand why the drone is targeting him and not the arm. The arm warns him, there's no time to stand still, more drones are on the way, and the only chance of survival is if they work together. Meanwhile, at Kagami headquarters, the president receives news that the drones have located the missing trigger arm. However, it's in the hands of some random kid. A superior asks if the boy has any connection to the organization of arms, but the investigation confirms that he merely found it by chance. Unconcerned about the boy's fate, the superior orders all available forces to set up a 2-kilometer perimeter to capture the arm at any cost. Back with Hikaru, he and the arm manage to hide from the drones. Relieved to be safe, Hikaru demands an explanation. What is this arm, and why is it being hunted? Unfortunately, the arm doesn't remember anything. Still, it knows that Hikaru is a kind person because he freed it. Normally, the arm wouldn't be able to move without Arbitrium, but with Hikaru, everything flows smoothly. Hikaru, trying to get out of this bizarre situation, decides he's going to abandon the arm along with his jacket since it can move on its own. However, the arm pleads not to be left behind, warning that the world outside isn't safe. In Hikaru's mind, the danger comes from being with the arm, so the best solution would be to get rid of it. But as he walks away, the arm starts to lose energy. Hikaru turns back and sees that it's almost collapsed. After a few tests, he confirms that the arm depends on his proximity to function. For better or worse, they are connected. Eventually, the drones find them again. This time, the arm decides to act on its own, grabbing the ground and dragging Hikaru away. From a nearby tower, Kagami's weapons developer watches the scene, disappointed by the trigger arm's poor performance but determined to recover it. He receives information that he's not the only one after the arm, meaning he'll have to deal with an old rival, Aki. Aki finally arrives at the area, following her informant's directions, which redirect her to the correct path. She decides to take a shortcut through an alley and temporarily disables her robotic arms to squeeze through the wall. As Hikaru, exhausted, struggles to keep running, the arm forces him to continue, draining his last bit of energy. Suddenly, Aki appears, throwing Hikaru to the ground and easily destroying the drones. She then turns to Hikaru and the arm, threatening to kill them if they don't comply. Dex, one of Aki's robotic arms, reminds her that her job is to protect them, not eliminate them. But before they can explain the situation, the weapons developer arrives, still bitter that Aki stole Alma, the trigger arm, from him. He promises to make her pay. With the distraction, Hikaru sees an opportunity to escape. Aki tries to follow him, but her Mecha-Ude is too large to fit through the narrow alleys. Hikaru runs again, but he's already starting to regret getting involved in this. The arm, seeing Hikaru struggle, tells him to leave it behind. Those chasing them only want Alma, and if Hikaru abandons it, he should be safe. Even though the arm is right, Hikaru hesitates to leave it behind. He knows Alma can't move without him. When Aki finally defeats the weapons developer and catches up to them, she threatens them once again. Alma offers to cooperate, as long as Hikaru is freed, but Hikaru refuses. Even though he's reluctant, he can't abandon Alma now. Seeing that Hikaru won't back down, Aki prepares to fight. Hikaru isn't confident that he can win, but Alma encourages him. Together, they can defeat Aki, he just needs to move forward with confidence. Hikaru decides to trust Alma and charges at Aki. Aki, initially ready to defend herself, is caught off guard when Alma leaps into the air and transforms, knocking her to the ground. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Hikaru and Alma flee. Later, once the danger has passed, they emerge from their hiding spot. Meanwhile, Aki returns to base, reporting her failure to capture Alma. She couldn't have predicted that the boy would be able to use Alma's powers, but she knows that Kagami will be after him soon. They need to act quickly. The next day, with no place to leave Alma, Hikaru takes him to school, trying to keep a low profile so they won't be found. However, when he arrives in class, he's shocked to see that Aki has transferred to his class, and she doesn't seem happy about it. That was the end of episode 1. As Hikaru tries to ignore Aki's deadly gaze, something sinister unfolds in the shadows. Two agents, T and Nur, are watching his every move from a nearby building. They work for the Kagami group and have been tasked with retrieving the trigger arm at any cost, even if it means murder. However, T feels uncomfortable with the idea of killing a child. After class, Hikaru hides in the bathroom, hoping to escape Aki, but he never imagined she would follow him there. This time, though, she doesn't seem interested in a fight. Hikaru suspects she just doesn't want to cause a scene at school, but regardless, if she isn't going to fight, Alma suggests they try talking to Aki. Yesterday was so chaotic that they had no choice but to fight her, but now, thinking back, Aki was trying to be a little friendly at first, even if Hikaru doesn't remember that. Still, there aren't many people Hikaru can talk to about Alma. He can either talk to Aki or go to the police. He asks Alma what to do, but she isn't paying much attention, too busy playing with the toilet paper. On the other hand, Aki hears everything from the next stall and warns that going to the police is a terrible idea. They would hand Hikaru directly to the Kagami group. Then, Aki climbs into Hikaru's stall, declaring that she's there to be his bodyguard. This makes Hikaru so nervous about her being so close in the boys' bathroom that he bolts out, and Aki chases after him. A few minutes later, Hikaru manages to lose Aki and joins his friends for lunch. However, with Aki's persistent pursuit lately, his friends begin to suspect they might be in a relationship. Hikaru denies it, but it's hard to sound convincing, especially when Aki appears on the rooftop looking for him a second later. The friends call out to Aki, revealing Hikaru's location, but suddenly, Hikaru disappears. He managed to climb up and get out of sight in that brief moment. Alma doesn't understand why he is being so evasive since they had decided to try talking to Aki. At that moment, a classmate of Hikaru's, Miru, arrives on the rooftop, saying she has been looking for him everywhere. She introduces herself to Aki but doesn't seem too pleased with the encounter. Miru attributes Aki's cold stare to her nerves about being new and offers a welcome gift, a tray of cookies. Hikaru imagines Aki will freak out, but surprisingly, Aki seems intrigued by the cookies and grabs a handful, shoving them into her mouth. Miru is a bit shocked by how quickly Aki eats, but is happy her gift was well received, asking if they can be friends. Aki, nonchalantly, says she doesn't mind. She seems much more normal than Hikaru thought, but that doesn't change the fact that he doesn't want to talk to her. So, he puts on noise-canceling headphones and tries to sleep, escaping reality until the end of the day. Meanwhile, Aki continues to eat the cookies, and Miru asks about her relationship with Hikaru. However, Aki has completely forgotten that she should be looking for him. Wanting to help, Miru suggests she has an idea to leave Aki alone with Hikaru. Later, while Hikaru tries to sneak out of school unnoticed, Miru approaches him and hands him a handwritten letter from Aki. Hikaru already suspects what it's about, and as he feared, Aki is trying to ask him out. Miru ends up dragging Hikaru to an abandoned part of the school, not letting him leave, believing Aki wants to confess her love. With no options left, Hikaru enters the room where Aki is waiting and confronts her for involving Miru in this. Aki defends herself, claiming it was Miru's idea, but she followed him all day nonetheless. Now, he wants to know what Aki really wants from him. Aki reveals that she is a member of an organization called ARMS, tasked with taking care of Alma and being her bodyguard. Alma sees this as good news, thinking Aki will protect them, but Aki clarifies that her only job is to protect Alma, not caring about Hikaru. However, since Alma is connected to him, there isn't much Aki can do to separate them. As part of her mission, Aki needs to take both of them to HQ. Of course, she won't harm Hikaru if he cooperates, and Alma thinks that's great. However, Hikaru still feels insecure about going with Aki, as he isn't sure he can trust her. Alma understands Hikaru's concerns, but Aki seems to know something about him, and Alma still wants to find out what and who Hikaru really is. Feeling sorry for Alma, Hikaru decides to agree to go with Aki, even without trusting her, but first he wants to understand why Alma loses power whenever she is away from him. After hearing this, Aki appears perplexed. It shouldn't be possible for a mecha to merge with a jacket, and there's no information on anything like that. Finally, she approaches him and says she needs to take him for some tests, but Hikaru becomes frightened by her aggressiveness and asks Alma if there's anything he can do to escape this. Alma tries to use the power they used against her yesterday, but despite the flash of light, nothing happens. Alma doesn't have enough strength. That leaves only one option, so Hikaru grabs Alma and starts to run, but when he tries to leave through the front door, Miru stops him, saying he should finish talking to Aki before leaving. Meanwhile, outside, T and Nur are watching the entrance of the building. However, since there is a schoolgirl standing outside, they can't do anything without exposing themselves. Inside, Hikaru tries to find an exit, but all the others are blocked. Thus, his only choice seems to be to go up. Meanwhile, Aki is still looking for him, and Dex suggests she go down the right hallway, while Sinis advises the left hallway, but Aki ignores both and decides to go down, breaking through the floor and landing directly on Hikaru. Now, there's nowhere left for Hikaru to run. Aki doesn't understand why he is fleeing when he had the chance to spare her yesterday. Hikaru insists he would never kill anyone, but Aki no longer listens to him. To her, Hikaru must be plotting something and using Alma. Alma tries to defend him, insisting that Hikaru is not a bad person, but Aki still doesn't believe it, and when Alma tries to use her power to protect him, again nothing happens. Aki sees this as proof that Hikaru is not truly connected to Alma and decides to eliminate him for her own safety. At that moment, Miru enters the room, drawn by a loud noise. The position in which Hikaru and Aki find themselves suggests something entirely different to her, and realizing the situation, Miru quickly turns around and leaves, leaving them alone. As soon as she disappears, Aki prepares to resume her mission to eliminate Hikaru, but he has already vanished, hiding once again. Aki sighs and begins her search. Hikaru, who gets up and tries to leave through the front door, is interrupted by Nur, who is wearing one of the Kagami group's uniforms. Instantly, Hikaru goes on high alert. Nur says he needs help, but Hikaru is not inclined to cooperate, especially after the nearly fatal attack from the drones. Nur apologizes, claiming it was a mistake, but confesses that he regrets not being able to finish him off earlier. In a swift move, he strikes Hikaru with a sonic cannon. Although it doesn't cause physical damage, Hikaru falls to his knees, dizzy and disoriented. With Hikaru incapacitated, Nur kicks the door, looking for a clear angle to shoot at Tuss. However, she ends up getting in his way, blocking the shot. When Nur steps back, Alma seizes the chance and drags Hikaru away, preventing him from being hit. But the danger is still imminent, and Hikaru gets up, running back into the building. Tuss yells at Nur for messing up the shot, but determined to end the situation, she begins shooting through the walls, hoping to hit Hikaru. He genuinely worries that she might end up killing him. Alma, on the other hand, has a different concern. Even though Nur is using a mecha, she doesn't sense any consciousness in it. Just then, Nur hits Hikaru with another sonic wave. He collapses at the end of the hallway, and Tuss takes the opportunity to shoot, but at the last second, Aki saves him. Nur launches another sonic wave, and Aki tries to block it. However, just like with Hikaru, she also becomes dizzy and falls. Nur enjoys the situation, relishing in the suffering of others, but Aki refuses to be taken down. Her priority is to protect Alma. She gets up and urges Hikaru to flee while he still can. Reluctant to leave her alone, Hikaru hesitates, but Aki pleads for him to run, insisting that they can't let the Kagami group get their hands on Alma. He finally listens to her request and flees while she keeps Ner occupied. But just when it seems like Aki is gaining the upper hand, Ner pulls out a surprise weapon. Hikaru begins to climb the stairs, frustrated by being constantly chased. However, Alma stops him, insisting that they shouldn't leave Aki alone. He remembers that Aki said they should escape to ensure Alma's safety, but the idea of abandoning Aki does not sit well with Hikaru. So, Alma jumps off his back, punches the wall, and creates an opening for Hikaru to escape. With a burning desire to help Aki, Hikaru agrees to go with Alma since she can't move on her own. But they need a plan before facing Ner and his sonic cannon. Meanwhile, Ner manages to subdue Aki using handcuffs that remove the consciousness of the UD mecha, and now he takes her to the rooftop, where Tusk can shoot her. To everyone's surprise, Tusk comes down personally, irritated that it's taking too long to finish the job. She mocks Aki for being so pathetic, but despite her desire to kill her, Tusk has orders to bring Aki back alive. She tells Ner to go back to the building to look for Hikaru, and he doesn't need to search long. Hikaru is already climbing the stairs. Spotting Ner, Hikaru tries to punch him, but since he's not an experienced boxer, he misses. Although he's not the most skilled fighter, he manages to dodge Ner's attacks. Ner decides to shoot anyway, but Hikaru wasn't bluffing when he said he was immune to the sonic wave. He's wearing noise-canceling headphones. His intention was to buy time for Aki to recover, but when he looks at her, he realizes she has been captured. This throws a wrench in his plans, but he has a better idea and launches Alma toward Aki to free her from the handcuffs. Unfortunately, Alma begins to lose power as soon as she moves too far away from Hikaru, so he needs to run closer. Surprisingly, Tusk, who should be an accurate shooter, misses an easy shot. However, Hikaru and Alma manage to free Aki. As soon as Aki regains mobility, she grabs Tusk and uses her as a human shield, advancing against Ner. Ner hesitates to use his attack against Aki, but she orders him to shoot in the name of the mission. He complies, but instead of hitting Aki, he takes out Tusk. Aki then seizes the opportunity and knocks out Ner. With the building damaged from the fight, it is about to collapse. Before that can happen, Tusk regains consciousness and flies away, leaving Ner to be buried under the rubble along with the others. Aki and Hikaru emerge unscathed, but soon Aki's boss from ARMS appears, clearly dissatisfied with the destruction she caused during the mission. They take her back to headquarters, and when Hikaru finally wakes up, he is introduced to the leader of the ARMS group, Alges, and his mecha, Fist. Alges explains that they fight against the Kagami group, which seeks to claim all mechas and control them as slaves. Alma, without remembering anything about them, discovers that Fist is her brother and that they need her help to win this war. Without hesitation, Alma offers to help and convinces Hikaru to do the same. However, Aki and Alges clarify that they actually only need Alma for this, and Hikaru does not need to be present. While Hikaru was asleep, some tests were conducted to measure the arbitrium levels in his body. Arbitrium is an energy generated by the human mind and is the fuel necessary for all UD mecha. However, when Hikaru's arbitrium levels were charted, the result was almost laughable. For comparison, here's what an average UD mecha user's levels look like. If it wasn't already obvious, Hikaru is practically a failure with UD mecha, and there's no gentle way to put it. Alges agrees that maybe Hikaru was responsible for awakening Alma, but he's also the reason Alma is trapped in a jacket, unable to use his power. Even so, they have no choice but to leave Alma in Hikaru's care, though Al firmly warns him never to act alone since he simply can't defend himself. Alma tries to defend Hikaru, pointing out that he's the only reason he hasn't been captured by the Kagami group yet, but Quinn counters that, regardless, Hikaru lacks the power to control Alma, making him a liability. At this moment, Aki intervenes, saying she believes Hikaru can indeed awaken Alma's potential. After all, he channeled Alma's power the first time they met, so she's confident that, with a bit of training, he can get stronger. So far, the training has consisted of Alma doing push-ups on the school roof, and although Hikaru appreciates Aki's initiative, he's unsure of its effectiveness. After all, Only Alma is moving while he just stands still. Aki insists that training Arbitrium is more a matter of spirit, so Hikaru just needs to get excited and focused, which will make him stronger. Even though he doesn't understand how this can increase his Arbitrium, Hikaru decides to go along, for now. Shortly after, Aki receives a call from ARMS, summoning her to headquarters. She interrupts the training and takes Hikaru and Alma with her. There have been several recent incidents where UD Mecha were forcibly ripped from their users. This is already the third case this week. Alice suspects it could be the work of a new Kami agent, and the priority is to recover the stolen UD Mecha before it's too late. Alma, confused, asks what too late means, and Dex explains that if a UD Mecha is forcibly removed from someone's body, they will die within a few days. The reason is unclear, but it's believed that Arbitrium starts leaking from the fusion point, weakening the person until they die. Much about Arbitrium remains a mystery, but what they do know is that it has profound impacts on the human body. For example, anyone fused with a UD Mecha gains incredible physical abilities. However, since Alma hasn't fused directly with Hikaru, he's still an ordinary human. Noticing some marks on the victim's arms, Aki immediately deduces that the assailant must be using a hot-type mecha. Alice already guesses where this is leading and reminds her that her mission now is to protect Alma at all costs, forbidding her from directly involving herself in this case, even if she has personal reasons. As soon as Alice walks away, Aki ignores everything he said and announces there's something she wants to investigate for personal reasons, and, since she needs to protect Hikaru, he's coming with her. Meanwhile, the Kagami group is desperately searching for the whereabouts of Jun, Kagami's younger brother, who apparently stole an experimental artificial UD mecha and disappeared, with no one knowing what he plans to do with it. The leader of the 3rd Division offers to solve the problem, but since they were the division that allowed Alma to escape last time, the White Crows take over the task this time. Later, Hikaru follows Aki late into the night, realizing she's investigating the case despite Alice's orders. He wonders if it's really safe for them to be there alone. Aki refuses to respond, but soon, they hear the sound of horns nearby. On the other side of the containers, the White Crows are searching for Kagami's younger brother. The group's leader, Amada, orders them to continue searching the area, but Aki and Hikaru get too close to them. Hikaru thinks interacting with the Kagami group is a terrible idea, but Aki assures him everything will be fine as long as he stays by her side and hides Alma. She asks Amada if he knows anything about a hot-type UD mecha user. At first, they think she's just an ordinary girl, but when UD mecha are mentioned, Amada and his group become hostile, as they can't allow the public to discover the existence of mecha. They attempt to capture her, and Aki is forced to fight them, calling Sinus and Dex to help. Amada is surprised to realize she's also a mecha user, but he still orders the White Crows to regroup and attack again. In the chaos, Hikaru ends up pushed aside, and as he tries to get up, he spots a boy with an inhaler hiding in a corner. Hikaru warns the boy of the danger and asks if he's okay, but the boy doesn't respond and runs off. Concerned, Hikaru decides to follow him, leaving Aki to face the White Crows. Amada notices and orders his Mecha Joe to transform into a motorcycle to pursue them. As Hikaru chases the boy, some White Crow members catch up to them, but Hikaru stands in front of the boy to protect him. They are ready to beat Hikaru if necessary to capture the boy, but before they can attack him, Alma steps in and blocks the hit, firmly resolved to protect Hikaru. At that moment, they see Amada and his motorcycle UD mecha charging straight toward them. Hikaru tries to shout for the boy to run, but when he turns, he realizes the boy has already vanished. Amada loses his initial target, but, seeing Alma, changes his plan and decides to capture him instead. Alma realizes that he and Hikaru are the new targets and tries to drag him to safety. But in terms of speed, Alma doesn't stand a chance against a motorcycle. Soon, Amada catches up and grabs Alma, boasting about capturing the famous trigger arm. Just then, Aki suddenly appears and knocks him off the bike. Taking advantage, she questions Amada and Joe about a hot-type UD mecha user. Fearing being crushed by a container, they agree to talk, but without any real information, Aki lets them go. She's frustrated at not finding any leads and furious at Hikaru for going off alone. He tries to explain that he saw a boy in trouble and just wanted to help, but Aki doesn't accept his excuses. She scolds him, saying his impulsiveness almost led to Alma's capture. While she wants to trust him, she reminds him he's still entirely defenseless and unable to handle these situations alone. Meanwhile, the boy from before watches everything from a rooftop, showing an unusual interest in Alma and waiting for the right moment to act. Down below, Hikaru, equally irritated with Aki, tells her that she's the one who dragged him along against his will and that if anyone's at fault, it's her. He also complains that she didn't even explain what was happening, so he sees no reason to obey her. Determined, he announces that he's leaving. Sinis and Dex ask Aki if it's really safe to let him go alone, but, still upset, she coldly replies that she doesn't care what he does. As Hikaru walks away, Alma tries to persuade him to apologize to Aki, reminding him that she's only trying to protect him. Hikaru, however, refuses. Observing the quarrel, Jun thinks this is the perfect chance to steal Alma since Aki and Hikaru are at odds. But before he can move forward, Aki intercepts him, still determined to keep them safe. Annoyed by the interruption, Jun activates his Mecha-Ude, revealing it as a heat type, which infuriates Aki, making her think he's the user she's been looking for. However, after a brief fight, Dex realizes he isn't the target. This moment of distraction allows Jun to slip past, putting Aki in a vulnerable position. Meanwhile, Hikaru is reflecting on the argument with Aki when suddenly his phone rings. Alma urges him to apologize, but upon answering, he sees a photo of Aki unconscious on the ground. Shortly after, a call from Jun on her phone informs him that he removed Aki's Mecha-Ude, and without it, she'll die in a few hours. If Hikaru wants to save her, he must meet him at the designated location. Hikaru's first reaction is to call Alice and explain what happened, but Alice forbids him from going after Jun, knowing that's precisely what Jun wants. He promises to send agents to track Jun and insists that Hikaru and Alma refrain from taking any action. Tired of everyone telling him he's too weak to act, Hikaru starts to believe they may be right. But Alma reminds him that he's capable of great things when he truly commits. Hikaru admits that all his heroic actions so far were influenced by Alma, and that alone, he would still be a coward. He acknowledges his vulnerability but knows he's not alone now, and so he asks Alma to give him strength for what lies ahead. Hikaru and Alma head to the abandoned warehouse marked on the map. Upon entering, they're greeted by Jun's smirk. Alma asks why he's doing this, and Jun explains that he wants the most powerful Mecha-Ude. Sinis and Dex are good, but they're nothing compared to what he truly seeks. He wants the trigger arm, the Mecha-Ude rumored to give the strongest body to whoever merges with it. Without delay, Jun charges with his mecha, forcing Hikaru to run through the area to dodge his attacks. Hikaru tries to get close to grab Sinis and Dex, but Jun blocks every move, taunting him and calling him weak. Although Hikaru doesn't disagree with his weakness, he refuses to let it stop him from doing what's right. He charges again, breaking through Jun's defenses and landing a solid hit. Frustrated with the trouble Hikaru is causing, Jun, already exacerbated by his asthma, decides to end it all at once. He forms a cage around Hikaru and electrocutes him until he passes out, capturing him and trying to rip Alma from his body. Relieved to finally have Alma, Jun is shocked to see him still moving and gets knocked down. He doesn't understand how a Mecha-Ude can act alone and is further bewildered when Hikaru, even on the brink of death, begins to rise as well. Hikaru reaches out toward Alma, and as they touch, Alma's true power awakens. Desperate, Jun tries to form a fist to strike them, but is completely overwhelmed by Hikaru and Alma, who destroy the blow effortlessly. They advance for the final attack, and when Jun tries to block, Hikaru knocks him down with a final punch. Jun is defeated. After the battle, Hikaru and Alma think they can finally relax, but soon realize they were wrong. The leader of the White Ravens appears, and both prepare to fight again, but he reassures them, explaining he wasn't hired to fight them this time. He only wants to take June and withdraw, along with recovering Senes and Dex. However, Hikaru refuses to let him take the Mecha-Ude. The man is prepared to force the situation, but June intervenes, insisting he wants to be the one to defeat Hikaru and forbidding the leader from hurting him. Reluctantly, the man concedes and returns the Mecha-Ude to Hikaru, but promises they will meet again, and next time, Hikaru won't escape so easily. Sometime later, Aki wakes up in a hospital, with Senes and Dex reconnected to her. Upon learning that Hikaru saved her, she finds him on the rooftop, where he's attempting to stitch Alma back onto his jacket. Sitting beside him, the atmosphere grows a bit tense. Hikaru asks what she was looking for the previous night, and Aki explains she's seeking her family's killer. Her only clue is that he uses a heat-type Mecha-Ude, though June wasn't responsible. Aki admits her thirst for revenge led her to act impulsively, thanks Hikaru for saving her, and offers to help with the stitching, but, being terrible at it, Hikaru tries to stop her. At this moment, Meru appears with sweets and misinterprets the situation, adding to the awkwardness. Now an official member of ARMS, Hikaru is sent on his first mission a few days later. He finds himself on top of a truck transporting captured Mecha-Ude. Peering in, he sees a burly, intimidating man assaulting a scientist. The other ARMS members anticipated something like this and remind Hikaru to stick to the plan and activate the EMP when the truck crosses the intersection ahead. Hikaru intends to comply, but upon seeing the man mistreating a chained mecha, Alma refuses to wait and acts impulsively, causing an accident that flips the truck on the road. Hikaru manages to escape but must run, as Alma has revealed his location, turning him into a target. The burly man uses the truck to block Hikaru's escape route, complicating the situation. Fortunately, T, a member of ARMS, intervenes with his mecha, Carex, launching missiles to divert attacks aimed at Hikaru. However, the man draws an arm cannon and attacks. Before Hikaru is hit, T rescues him, and Hikaru thanks him for the help, while Alma apologizes for the mess he caused. However, there's little time to talk, as the man spots them again and charges. The situation seems to worsen until Aki appears and takes him down. Aki scolds Hikaru and Alma for ruining a simple mission and instructs T to take them away before they cause more trouble. The man, upon standing, notices that Aki has 2 Mecha-Ude, but still believes he has the advantage with his 3. He tries to kick her, but Aki blocks easily. Then, the man attempts to fire his laser, but runs out of power and collapses. Observing the situation, Aki comments on the stamina required to use a Mecha-Ude, showing that the man isn't ready to handle multiple mechas. While she calls in the recovery team, a mysterious individual appears and uses a heat-type mecha on the man, rejuvenating his strength. Aki struggles against the man's enhanced strength, and her chances of winning seem slim until Hikaru appears, rushing in and pushing him back. Aki shouts that he should have fled, but Hikaru refuses to leave her in danger. The man fires a laser cannon, but Hikaru and Alma dodge with ease. He then tries to crush them with a truck, but Hikaru charges forward and defeats him with a punch. After the fight, T congratulates Hikaru for his efforts, praising him for rescuing the UD mechas. Aki, however, seems more concerned about the man being taken to HQ. Later, while showering, Aki is haunted by flashbacks of her sister and the promise she failed to keep, to protect her. Now, her only goal is to avenge her family. As she leaves the shower, she finds a scientist waiting, who reports on the captured man. Unfortunately, he didn't obtain any useful information, as the man's mechas weren't the hot type, though Aki is certain she saw one. The scientist offers to help, suggesting she rely on him instead of Hikaru, but Aki barely listens and leaves to find Hikaru. At Hikaru's house, Alma wakes up and realizes they both overslept. If Hikaru doesn't wake up soon, they'll be late for school. Alma tries dragging him out of bed by his pants, even offering to help him change as Hikaru groggily resists, struggling to focus on the day ahead. One day, Aki climbs into Hikaru's room through the window, only to find he's not yet ready for school. She offers to help him get dressed, insisting it's non-negotiable. Meanwhile, at school, the students are buzzing with excitement over the arrival of a new transfer student, rumored to be wealthy. When the door opens, everyone turns to see Aki pushing Hikaru, who's only partially dressed, immediately sparking rumors. Meru, quick to imagine a romantic scenario, begins fantasizing about a relationship between the two. But Aki quickly drops Hikaru on the floor and mentions that there's a new student coming, news that surprises even her. Soon after, an announcement over the PA system calls Hikaru to the rooftop. He and Aki go up and find June, the new student, waiting. As soon as Sinis and Dex see him, they attack instantly, still resentful for what he did to Aki during their last encounter. But June blocks the attack with his mecha, annoyed by the interruption. Preparing to retaliate, he's reminded by a message from Todo, leader of the White Ravens, about the promise not to use his mecha at school. June tries to justify himself, but Todo permits no exceptions, forcing June to deactivate his mecha and back off. Even so, Aki wants to knock him out, but Hikaru stops her, noting that he clearly doesn't want to fight, so she decides to let him go, for now. Before leaving, June declares that he'll one day take the trigger arm for himself. He explains that the scientist who created his mecha said it would take time for him to fully adapt to its body, but in the meantime, he's observing Hikaru to understand how he uses Alma so well. Noticing that June calls Alma trigger arm, Hikaru asks if he knows more about it, as Alma has lost her memory. But before June can answer, Aki attacks him, considering him a threat. However, Alma prevents the attack, pointing out that they need to discover more about the past June shares with her. June takes advantage of the distraction to step away, reminding Hikaru that his mecha restrictions apply only at school. Anywhere else, he won't hesitate to fight. Later, as Hikaru and Aki walk down the halls, she moves close enough to make him uncomfortable. To create some distance, Hikaru mentions an imaginary rice ball, but Aki follows him everywhere he goes. He manages to slip away using his lunch as a distraction, only to end up without anything to eat. At that moment, he hears June's voice, watching him from a tree, as he ponders asking Todo how Hikaru controls the trigger arm without training. Todo doesn't know but suggests that perhaps Hikaru's food has something to do with it. With a black credit card, June offers to pay for Hikaru's lunch to find out what he eats. While Hikaru accepts the offer, wanting to discuss Alma's past, Aki shows up and intervenes, rejecting June's approach but accepting the lunch. Shortly after, Hikaru heads to the restroom for a moment of peace, remarking to Alma that he's unsure how to approach June for information since Aki always intervenes. He decides that the sports tournament might be his chance. However, while searching for June on the field, he takes a ball to the face as June observes from a tree, surprised at Hikaru's slow reaction, considering he possesses the strongest mecha. June then senses something and dodges, but another ball hits Hikaru in the head, knocking him out. The ball was thrown by Aki, intending to hit June but accidentally knocking out Hikaru. Seizing the moment, Aki ties Hikaru up with tape and proposes a symbolic fight with June to determine who will keep him. Still resentful of June, Aki prepares for a battle, while Meru watches, prompting them to agree to a fists-only showdown, adding humor and tension to the confrontation. Meru enjoys the scene as Alma pleads with Hikaru to convince Aki to give up, as he still needs to talk to June. After some thought, Hikaru realizes the only thing that might convince Aki to relent is food. He stands up and shouts that if Aki allows him a few minutes alone with June, he'll treat her to a buffet. The tempting offer makes Aki agree, and she drags Meru away, giving Hikaru and June a moment of privacy. Once alone, June asks what Hikaru wanted to discuss. Hikaru and Alma take the opportunity to question him about Alma's past, as the Kagami group seems very interested in capturing him. Alma reveals that she's lost all her memories, and any information June can provide would be helpful. June is surprised to see that the trigger arm truly remembers nothing, but he mentions there are many records about him in the Kagami group's archives. He then shows a photo of Alma alongside Yakumo Kagami, the group's founder and the one who transformed the city. The revelation shocks Hikaru and Alma, but June can't offer further explanations, as the photo was taken decades ago. Meanwhile, Aki watches the scene from the bridge, with Meru tied up beside her. She receives a call from the scientist, who found a lead on the worm-type mecha user she was searching for. Later, Hikaru and Alma go to the city library to research Yakumo Kagami. Alma is puzzled to see how much people seem to love the group, despite their terrible actions. Hikaru agrees that the Kagami group has made mistakes, but argues that, from the people's perspective, they've done a lot to improve the city. While researching, they find a portrait of Yakumo, and Alma gets emotional, even shedding robotic tears, feeling that he's important to him, though he can't remember who he is. Elsewhere, Tammy is captured by the worm-type mecha user, and Aki is the first to arrive. Before she can help, the user rips Carrick from Tammy's body and throws it towards Aki. Carrick is then crushed until it shatters. Furious, Aki, Sneeze, and Dex attack the worm user, but he dodges and throws something into the hole left in Tammy's body, turning him into a puppet to fight Aki. The user tries to escape, but while Aki wants to make sure Tammy is okay, she also wants to capture the worm user. She knocks Tammy out and removes the control device. Hikaru receives a call about Tammy's condition and rushes to check on him. He finds him unconscious in an alley and takes him back to headquarters. Thanks to Hikaru's quick action, Tammy should survive, but Carrick isn't as fortunate. The mode, mechanical life forms, can die like humans, and nothing can change that. They came from a different dimension searching for Orella, the father of all UD mechas. During an experiment to awaken him, an accident occurred, and Alma was forced to use all his power to seal him, resulting in his memory loss. The key to Orella lies in Alma's forgotten memories, and depending on who obtains this information, the fate of the world could be at stake. This was the end of episode 4. Subscribe so you won't miss the next part.